peace only comes when you deal with your darkness. Peace only comes when you are at peace with the whole of yourself.
Welcome to the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips. As a leading manifestation advisor with a process that's, well, radically different from the old New Age model, mine is rooted in psychology, neuroscience, and my energetic gifts. I created this podcast to help you expand your subconscious limiting beliefs about the potential of deserving the manifestations you're calling in. Therefore, you're tuning into this podcast series to show your subconscious that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, you've already started the process of manifesting it. I just got back from New York on Wednesday, and I had been just secretly so excited to go because I'm such a huge fan of the holidays. I actually celebrate traditionally more of the pagan holiday calendar, the original holidays, I guess you could say. So this season for me is all about candles, light, greenery, the energy you feel, the kinetic energy amongst people. It's like you can feel a special bit of magic for those who are imbibing. And I'm yet to spend any pre-holiday time in some of my favorite cities like Paris or New York has been one I've been wanting to do forever. I find it to be one of the most romantic cities in the world. And so many of my favorite holiday movies take place in New York because when I actually watch holiday movies, I'm more of a fan of the old school, black and white, kind of unknown ones. My favorite of all time is called Remember the Night. I think it's from the 40s. It's back then, and it's a love story and blah, 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 blah. I love The Apartment. So I actually binged those because I'm still on bed rest. And due to that Black Friday sale we had, which was bananas, I want to personally thank every single thousands of you who took advantage of that sale. It's our biggest one of the year. We only do 2, and that's by far the greatest discount and thing that you will see. And so because it's a new platform, it's our version 2.0 where it has, the app if you're an iPhone user. And if you're interested in checking out the 2.0 new upgraded version that we have of the pathway, go ahead and click at the link below. We have a clarity exercise that can kind of give you a taste of what that interface and experience will be like. You can actually save the DIs and everything on it. Well, we were in real time manually having to shift over old accounts to new account, and it was just chaos. So I actually jumped in and helped with getting back to our customer service. So I really hit my ceiling with it. I really stressed my adrenals hard because I was just on the computer go nonstop. And so I have so much respect for the team. But then I kind of checked out in New York pre-show and just watched my favorite holiday movies and got lost in the city. And I brought my mom and my brothers out to New York for the trip. So, it was really exciting to get to see the holiday city through their eyes. I always stay down on the Lower East Side because I just like to be down there. But I put them, more in like the tourist epicenter so that they could be near all the things. So that was really, really fun and exciting. And yeah, so now I'm just getting ready to head up and celebrate Yule. I always now this will be the second annual Yule party, solstice party that I throw for my family. And we bring in a brass band, and we're actually going to be doing tamales and enchiladas. And so we're bringing in, somebody for that. And getting together, and it's where I make my family do all the spiritual stuff where we throw into the fire everything we're leaving behind, and we write down our intentions together, and it's just a lot of fun. So I'm excited for that, and really just being present for my favorite time of the year with my family. And because I don't drink, and I certainly can't really have anything on this protocol I'm on, Are these intros boring for you? I mean, if they are, please know that you can always skip through them. We have so many people that actually enjoy them, but I'm always on the fence. I'm like, are people sick of hearing these? I don't know. But anyway, I do have to give a lot of updates for the protocol. I know a lot of you have since worked with my nutritionist and coach, Unique Hammond, who helps coach through Karen Hurd's protocol. I've worked with both of them. Unique is who I work side by side with the most. She really holds my hand weekly through the process when I have my ups and downs. But I've had so many new shifts for anybody else now who's on this protocol. Stick with it if it's working for you, if you feel called to it. We'll have it in the show notes if you're hearing this for the first time. But so incredible for somebody who's really struggled with hormonal imbalance and obviously stage 4 adrenal burnout right now. This was the first time, because I basal body temperature chart, that after my ovulation, it just kept rising and then just dropped off right before my cycle. Therefore, this time it was like my progesterone's perfect, no crazy estrogen in that phase. So it's really having an insane turnaround. Another really weird thing that I actually just noticed this week, I used to have, I don't know if it's normal for you all, I think it was more of a thyroid thing, but a lot of hair would come out in the shower. I have a lot of hair in general, but a lot of my hair would come out in the shower. And when I brushed, and I don't really have much that I'm losing that much anymore. I mean, unless it's just coming out during the day, aside from showering and brushing. But that's another interesting thing. It's like it's thicker, stronger, and not coming out as much. There have been a ton of things, but I can't personally drink. And so what I'm going to do is make a really special, I used to do this a few years ago. I think I even have an old recipe actually on the site. On To Be Magnetic, if you search, you go to the hamburger and you search, it's an eggnog that I do. And this was like way back before people were doing adaptogens, but I'm going to be doing a 4-sigmatic reishi eggnog for myself and my family. So I'm going to leave any sweeteners or anything like that out of it, but make it out of a chestnut milk, to stay really in theme, and reishi, because those are the only things I have been having. As you know, on the speaking tour, I've been doing the lion's mane because I get such crazy brain fog right now, and then reishi. And so I've been having the reishi on flight to really keep my immune system up. Sometimes I'll do the astragalus, but it's just so easy to do the 4-sigmatic on the go. And therefore, that's the only reason why I've committed to partnering with them, because it's literally the only thing I can pretty much have at this point. Anybody else who's interested in trying them out, they're generous enough to give us the code TBM15 for 15% off. Sign up for the newsletter for your chance to win a lifetime membership to the Pathway if you're interested in receiving some great content. And let's get into today's episode. Today's guest is an awesome, awesome woman that I actually happened to meet out in the wild, which you'll hear about. Many of you come up to me all the time when especially in New York, it happens a lot, which is awesome. Always feel free to come up and say hello. I love it. I love hearing about what you're manifesting. I love hearing about your process through it. And so this woman is, no exception to this. Her name is Paige Patterson. We talk about how we randomly met in LA, and she is an excellent process episode because she went through a really, really long rut, and she's very vulnerable about it and how this work essentially got her out of it and has her working as an actress again. And it's great because, she's right on the brink of everything happening. But for any artist out there, anybody who's doing this work in general will simply relate to this episode. But for artists out there especially, this is just like the life that you need breathed into you when you're going through kind of these moments of things are out of your control or feeling low or in a rut, indecision. And so she really, really goes through it with clarity, calmness, grace. You're going to love it. Let's go. Today, I'm here with Paige Patterson. We are going through the process. And I'll start by kind of saying how we met. So I was chatting up Coco at Doen, and you happened to be there, obviously. And you came over and said, I just have to let you know, XYZ ... I'll let you share that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy that, I started working with Coco, and I think I was like throwing around the word expander, and she was like, "Ooh, whoa, okay, I know you're doing the work, you know?
And just for reference, anybody who's listening, Coco Shiva Rose, who's been on the podcast as well, that's her daughter.
Yes, it was like so crazy. And then, you know, her dad's an actor too, and she's also an actor, and I'm an actor. So it was very, it felt kismet to be working with her, and we had your work in common. And I had just been through a period where things were like really starting to come through, and you walking into the store felt like another manifestation. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, oh my God, you've changed my life. Like, your work has really changed my life. So it was so fun to get to meet you.
I was so stoked. And how did this even get set up? I think I was like, we definitely have to get you on the podcast. But this also must have come through another way, because you ended up submitting, for anybody who doesn't know, Paige, you can get a beautiful visual of her on the homepage of TBM, because you submitted your My Magnetic Story, and you're featured there. And I was like, oh my God, that's Paige. I met Paige. So this has really come. And then I ended up also, who was it? Somebody brought you up recently. It was Beth. Beth, you guys worked on a little project together, right? Beth Bears? Yeah. Or you happened to see each other on a set or something like that.
Well, we have mutual friends. So the graduate program that I went to, one of the guys who graduated from there is on her show. And so I've gone to see her tapings, and they just raved about Beth. And of course, I'd known about her for years because she's been on all these shows. But I was like, whoa, she's doing the work, and she's so down to earth. And when I listened to her on your podcast, I was like in tears with her like equine therapy. And I got to meet her a few times, and we just have so much in common. Actually, I'm going to manifest spending some time with her now that I'm thinking about it.
So excited. We have to have her back on too, because I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but she like pulled off a really big manifestation and manifested her new home, which I got to watch pitfalls of. So we have 20 degrees of separation.
And I love that you're having, I just listened to Sydney's as well, and I love that you're having so many women, and yourself included, who are becoming homeowners. Like this is important. We need more and more of this. So
it's
please.
So true. And we're actually, so many of us don't realize how we are so subliminally programmed to think that we can't do that on our own. And I think it's
100%.
So important for, like, especially the women who come from nothing or single. Yes. Sydney's a great example of that, where it's like, no, we deserve this too. We can do this too. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Well, let's kick off from the beginning. Tell us about your cultural upbringing and background.
Yeah, so I'm from California originally. I was born in the Bay Area. Similar to you, I have very young parents. I believe my parents were 23 when they had me. But that said, I mean, I was very much planned, and the first child on both sides. So, you know, I was kind of drowning in love. I was very, very well adored. And then my dad was in the military, so we moved kind of a little bit over California. Then we lived in Texas for a minute, but I spent most of my upbringing in a really tiny rural town in Southern California called Menifee.
Ooh, where's that?
Do you know where Temecula is?
I totally do. Yeah, it's the wine spot, like inland of San Diego.
Exactly. So we're sort of, I always tell people, like, kind of in between San Diego and LA, but very small, very conservative, and very interesting place to grow up. It's gotten a little bigger now, but it was so tiny.
How was that for you?
It was pretty amazing. I think it was, I went to a California distinguished school, like for elementary school. We just happened to luck out and get in like very good public schools. I always really enjoyed school, and I was so lucky to stay in the same district from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Wow.
So that was pretty amazing. And, you know, my parents, it was interesting. I'm sure you feel this way also. When you have young parents, you watch them go through all the things that we are going through now.
Totally.
You know, like, you know, I had a big, and I'm sure we'll get into it, like 30 was sort of a rock bottom for me. And I remember watching my mom on her 30th birthday, like crying, you know?
Wow.
So my parents, they're now divorced, and my mom is now a teacher. My dad is now an airline pilot, which was his big dream. And, my whole childhood, I think we sort of watched my whole family support his dream, which was amazing in so many ways because I think I got a lot of his drive. But I think that was hard too, to watch, for the whole family to be very subject to the change of his dreams. But the cool thing that came out of my parents splitting up is they're both now with great people. And then this is kind of a crazy, maybe an early example of my manifestation. It actually is. I've never thought about this before. So when I was, my parents divorced, they split and got back together a few times, but they actually got a divorce when I was 12, which was really difficult for me.
That's such a hard time. Any of my friends who went through that time are still scarred.
Yeah, it was really hard because I was becoming, you're becoming a woman and all this stuff, and everything is so rocky anyway, just with your body changing and all these things. But my parents were really lovely and civil, and they did full-on joint custody every other week, which was amazing. But now I'm always like, oh God, if God forbid, my husband and I ever have kids and we split up, I'm like, no, the kids need to live in one place, because it's kind of crazy to, I had two different personalities at each place, and I remember being a little bitch for the first 2 days when I would switch over, and it was like, no, this is a recalibrating of who I am in this space.
Yep, totally.
So that was really fascinating. But so my mom remarried right away, but my dad was an incredible single dad. He bought this beautiful home and made such a great home for us, and he was just amazing. And I don't think he thought he was going to remarry, but I was in a dance class with this girl named Rhiannon, and we kind of became friends. And I think I was in 8th grade and she was in 6th grade, and we had a little notebook that we passed back and forth, writing each other letters. And turns out our parents had both sort of been cheated on, and we set them up, and they're now married. And I remember
what? That is crazy.
So it was very crazy. And I remember meeting Laura, my now stepmom, for the first time, and just falling in love with her. And I remember going home and praying in my bed, please God, please let her be my stepmom, I love her so much.
Wow.
And so my friend Rhiannon is now my sister, and she had another sister, so now there are 4 of us, and it was such an amazing blended family to grow up in, and so joyful. So that was kind of an early manifestation. Obviously, I don't have anything to do with their love. They're amazing, but it's kind of crazy.
Wow. I love that. It's also it just shows. What I love about that is it empowers children, right? You're not just, even though you guys are in early adolescence, it's you matter, your thoughts matter, what you were thinking could work out matter. I think it's just so reinforcing and beautiful that it ended up working out that way. It's really, really cool.
It was so fun.
I know.
But yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know this, but what's your astrological? Well, now we know it's called the Primal Triad from Ricky Williams being on our podcast.
Yes,
what
I
is
love
it?
that.
Me too.
So I'm a Gemini sun, moon in Taurus. So I'm thrilled that the full moon is in Taurus today.
How's
Happy
that
full
going
moon.
for you?
Honestly, great. I was just telling Jessica yesterday. She was like, how are you feeling? I was like, it's Mercury retrograde, which usually, being a Gemini, I'm super affected by that because that's my ruling planet. But I feel very grounded right now, and I think it's because of the moon in Taurus, and I'm just feeling very chill. And then my rising is Leo, which we share that, right?
Yep, we totally do.
Yeah.
We're very similar, actually, because
I know
our stuff is very, very compatible.
Totally.
And then human design, I know.
I'm a manifester.
What type?
Are there types of manifestors?
Like an emotional or a...
Oh, emotional.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And everybody should know that Geminis are the second most magnetic people. They, aside from Aries, they tend to manifest the quickest outside of Aries when they're out of their own way.
That's crazy. My brother is an Aries, so I guess we're making stuff happen.
Wow, so you have your soul... do you get on well, your soulmate brother?
Oh my gosh, my brother is everything. Yeah, so I had a little brother, he's 3 years younger than me, and so he's everything to me.
Oh,
I love him so much.
Such a good connection. That brother connection's so special. I have two of them.
So special. Yes,
well,
you
three
do.
of them technically. I have a stepbrother as well who were very compatible. Well, then also let's start from the beginning with acting, because that's what we're going to parlay into. When did that begin for you? When did you fall in love with it, even know you were going to be okay for it, being expanded through it?
Yeah. So it's funny because I feel like I should have known from a young age. My grandparents always tell this story of but maybe I was supposed to be a director. We went out to dinner with like my great grandparents and stuff. And my mom, I grew up with a mother who watched Days of Our Lives religiously and Entertainment Tonight. So
I did too. I had like a step parent who did that for sure.
Yeah. So I grew up like being like, this is life. Like, this is amazing. Celebrity culture. Let's go,
Awesome. Like dramatic celebrity culture.
So dramatic. Exactly. And like People magazine everywhere, so good. But I guess at this dinner, I was like 2 years old, and I gave everyone Days of Our Lives character names and was pretty militant about everyone sticking to their storylines / names throughout the entirety of dinner. Like, I don't know how they let me get away with that, but
also, this is such a Little Miss Sunshine scene. It's like such an indie film. You're out in like, the boonies, out to dinner, and you're like, now start. It's like action.
Exactly. And like Baby Manifester too. Damn. Like,
totally.
Okay. So funny. But in high school, I did a lot of things, and I remember, and I still have some shadow about this. I remember my family calling me a quitter. Like, I did a lot of sports and things and just would be like, no, I don't want to do this. And so there was a lot of like softball, soccer, dance, like things, but nothing ever really stuck. I was always really good in school and pretty bright and very outgoing. And then I was a cheerleader in high school, and one of the girls on the dance squad was doing the musical. And she was, and I sang too. I loved to sing. I think I wanted to be Britney Spears. Like when I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a pop star. Like having a tour bus would have been my dream.
Wow.
And I took voice lessons, but that was just kind of for fun. And so my friend was doing the musical, and she encouraged me to audition, so I did, and then I was like, what is this life? This is everything. I was so happy in every single rehearsal. I think I got called back for the lead and didn't get it, and then was in the ensemble, but after that, I don't think I was out of a play until I got out of college.
Wow. So it was just you finally found your thing.
Yeah, it was it. It just made so much sense and brought so much joy. And I was really lucky to have a super expansive high school drama teacher. Thank you, Mr. Newman. He was doing like caviar pieces. Like he was doing a Little Night music with high schoolers. And it's like, what? He had he had impeccable taste. And so I got to do some really beautiful things from a very young age.
Had he been a professional at any? I feel like any of my early experiences, because I had a similar story. It wasn't until JC that I took a drama class just because, it was like easy. And any of the drama people that I ever interacted with in school, it's like they were a grip or like something, like in Hollywood.
Totally. Yeah. I think he was a professional, if not, maybe semi-professional actor in New York. Like he worked at the Plaza Hotel, and he was always auditioning and saw everything. And so he had a really good taste. Wow,
that's incredible. And so lucky. So he was the first one to really inspire you into this world.
Totally. And the things that I still think about, I remember once he looked at me and said, what's amazing about you is anytime I look at you, I see the wheels turning. You're so alive and your mind is so active. And
that just made my heart melt.
He was such a vision holder. It was amazing. It was
incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
Take us to New York.
Yeah. So so then I went to college at Chico State in Northern California, got all the partying out of my system.
So many people from my high school went to either SLO or Chico.
Course.
So many.
Of course they did. Like that makes so much sense. And it's it's like super agricultural too.
Yeah, Chico. My sister's actually going to go to Chico. Like it's not a joke, right out of Mariposa. It's really, and she's like huge. She wants to major in ag business.
Perfect. That's perfect. They have an incredible program.
Exactly.
That and teaching and nursing, but theater was kind of a sleeper program. It was wonderful. And I loved it. And another thing is I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to move straight to LA and become an actress. And, talking about programming, my mom didn't go to college and wished that she would have. She went to college when I was like 9 years old.
Wow.
So she basically sat me down and was like, I'm going to sit here and we're going to do all of your essays and you're going to go to college for a year. You're going to live in the dorms. If you don't like it, I promise you can come home. But I wish I would have gone, and I know you're going to love it. So if you don't love it, feel free to come home. But it was such a gift because obviously I loved it. And then I went on. How I got to New York was I decided after getting so I majored in theater arts and minored in musical theater dance from Chico State. Is that even a thing? And then I really wanted to go to graduate school because I don't know, I think I was sort of addicted to training, for better or worse. And I wanted to get my MFA. I auditioned for a bunch of schools and ended up getting into Columbia. And so
it's incredible.
It was amazing. And then I went and got my master's degree at Columbia. So that's how I got to New York.
And you stayed in New York for a bit, right? You met your husband there, and it seemed like things were going well until they weren't anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So out of school, we did a showcase, and it's funny, I was like told I was the weakest link in the class. And so I met my husband in our program, and everyone but me knew that I liked him. Like my body knew that I liked him, but I was like, oh no, I'm not going to shit where I eat. Like that's so incestuous. Like I'm not going to be with someone in the program. And so we got together a year and a half in and have been together ever since. But he was very much like, oh, I'm fine. Like I'm the shit. I'm going to get agents. And I was like, I'm garbage. I think I need to go be a kindergarten teacher. And
wow.
I ended up getting like, I think I met with like nearly every agency and got great responses. So I signed with great people right out of school and decided ultimately to stay in New York. And I was there, I think, for 8 years in total.
And what was the work that you were attracting like?
Yeah, so, I mean, I trained in Shakespeare and all this classical stuff and then ended up having a bit of success in TV, which that was a whole nother thing, too. I tell a lot of people who go to school, I'm like, get ready to have a whole separate education of learning how to audition for film and TV.
That was always, like, anytime I meet a young actor, I'm like, just start working now. Quit college, go work now. Like, if you want a career, just don't waste the time.
Yes. And I think that that's a hump that a lot of actors who train have to get over is it's like, it's not a meritocracy, dude. Like your MFA is beautiful and carry it around with pride, but also the little baby who moves here from Oklahoma, if she's doing a good job, she can slay, you know? So,
and she doesn't have like a lot of the programming because it's such a different medium, TV and film, than theater. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I started attracting was the film and TV. And, you know, it took a good year before I booked, but then I had a pretty great trajectory. It was like I did one co-star and then everything else was like, boom, recurs.
Wow, great.
So it was so good. And I think from 2014 to 2016, I was on a pretty great roll.
And then you hit a rock bottom.
Yes. So in 2016, I did 10 out of 13 on a CBS summer series. And then I did a 4-episode arc on Quantico. Like I was just like in a great flow. And then 2017 till late this summer, I could not get arrested. Like just couldn't book.
Wow. So what was going on? Because you knew the work, or you know the work now especially. Give us the whole breakdown.
So I started doing the work, I think 2017. I think I've been doing it for almost 3 years now.
Wow.
But, you know, I think it was a lot of shedding of ego shell. And, you know, with my type and the trajectory that I had, I think that coming out of educational theater, you put your worth and measure all of your goodness in you're seeing yourself through someone else's eyes. Is someone telling me I'm good? Does that make me good? And I think that I just didn't know what I wanted. Also, you know, I'm a societally attractive woman, so I was always like, I joke like that I'm going to write my memoirs where most of the trailers that I've walked into, my costume is like a thong and pasties. Like, okay, cool.
Totally. Oh my God. You know? So totally. Yep.
And I've done so much of that. And I really do think that I needed to come into my own and really decide what I wanted to do. And this is so woo-woo, but, you know, with my human design, I think that I was not living my design at all. Mm-hmm. I was waiting for everyone to tell me that I was good. I was my self-worth was so wrapped up in whether or not I was booking and working. And, you know, as I said earlier, I turned 30 and I was just like, oh my God, I thought I would have kids by now. I thought I'd have a successful career by now. I don't understand what is happening. And at one point, like, I was talking to my mom on the phone, and like, I don't do this often, but I was like just crying, talking to her, being like, everyone thinks I'm a loser. Like, the whole family thinks that I'm a failure, you know, like that I'm wasting. And this is worth mentioning. I've been very open with this lately, but because I think there's so much shadow around it. I have my husband does too. We have huge student loans from Columbia.
Totally.
I don't regret going, but it's like a house. It's an invisible house. And I think that it puts a lot of pressure on the career, but it also it just made me feel like I wasn't where I should be in terms of societal markers. And I remember, so I was talking to my mom and she was like, oh my God, no one thinks that. Like, that's all you,
wow.
You know? And
that's
so at that point,
beautiful to get that reflection.
It was amazing. And so at that point, I started doing shadow. When I started the work, I think the first thing I did was, of course, opulence, because I was like,
I need
career.
money.
Let's go. Yeah. Like, I need to book.
Yeah.
Let's go. And that was really helpful in realizing a lot of, you know, gender programming and stuff like that. But I think shadow was, and you've said this, it's so monumental for actors. And being like, gosh, what am I casting aside? And what am I just ignoring about myself? And so that was super helpful. But again, you know, I was auditioning all the time. So it wasn't like no one dropped me. I was auditioning all the time and getting callbacks and getting good feedback. It's just nothing was hitting. And I don't think that I was clear on what I wanted to do. And I also don't think that I was keeping myself full enough in my life. I think actors have to look at their lives through a holistic lens. And I think we get so one-track mind about work, and it's like, yeah, but what the fuck else do you like to do?
Totally.
Who do you like to be around?
Yeah.
So I did that, and then really was just like, oh, my energy's so stale. I kind of just want to move home, like to California. And my husband's from the Bay also, so really kind of took a year to get us moved out there. I just felt so called to be in LA.
Did you manifest it?
Totally. And also I have a friend she was the lead on the show that I did 10 out of 13 on, and she is such an expander, so down to earth and lovely. And there was one pilot season, I think it was 2018. Yeah, it was last year. She had this beautiful home in Beechwood Canyon and was like, I'm going to be gone. Please come live in my house for pilot season.
Wow.
Like, just stay.
Oh, an angel.
She's a true angel. And I got to live in this beautiful, like, little kind of villa in Beechwood Canyon and just see if it was really for me. And I was just so expanded by the opportunities that were coming to me in LA. And so definitely manifested the move. It was a lot of push-pull with my husband and I, because he was, you know, I'm so lucky. And someone said, I think it was the best man in our wedding, said, like, he is the bedrock that my flower gets to bloom from. Like, wow. We need each other. And it's so true. I'm just so grateful to have such a beautiful partner. But he feels so good making money. I mean, he's like a Capricorn rising, you know, and my dad's a Capricorn, which is, of course, but he was doing great out there with catering, and he's an actor also, but he can get a lot of self-worth and pleasure out of just providing. And he was terrified to move here without that. But we made the move, and it's been good.
And so what did your lowest point of your rock bottom look like for you?
I think it was just so much crying on the subway. I remember like feeling so angry and putting so much energy into these auditions. And I would like leave an audition and be like, I know I did so great, and I just didn't feel like I was respected. And I would just like feel like hot tears, like as I was walking away from my auditions. I just cared too much, and I felt so lonely. And I was like, I'm a collaborator. I want to be here. I want to collaborate. And if I'm not getting to work, all I'm doing is auditioning. And it's like, it's a vacuum. And then now with self-tapes, which is, you know, so many of auditions are self-tapes, it's literally like throwing a baseball into a void and being like, well, there's that energy that I just had so much fun with. You know?
I totally, absolutely. And then I know there was that pivotal point. I don't know what to term these yet, but that moment where your mom said, only you think that. There are those moments that kind of snap some reality into us where we're like, whoa, it's like a mirror in a sense that helps us kind of get out of our shit. What were a couple of those other ones, like even through doing the work or just during that experience where you went, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Definitely that. And there's so much, I want to touch on this because people say this to actors all the time. They're like, make your own work, make something. Like, don't just pout and audition. And I was like, oh, fuck you. I just want to be allowed to be an actor for hire. This is so frustrating. But then I would see all of my friends or community members, when people start doing their own shit, they start booking because they stop caring about the booking. Yeah. And they're filling themselves up. And so that was a huge thing for me. It took me a long time to figure out what my thing was, but it's been a podcast. It's been, I started a podcast, and that was so expansive and helpful for me because I was like, I don't know, eventually I'll probably write, but right now that doesn't feel authentic. So a lot of that, definitely my mom saying that, and so many people saying to me, what are these timelines that you have in mind? Like why do you think that you need to be in such a rush to have kids? Why do you think that you need to own a home by such and such time? Why do you feel so much shame about your debt?
You're like, Mom, I'm a Taurus moon.
I know exactly. But yeah, there was a lot of that. And I think that's something I'm really good at manifesting, whether consciously or unconsciously, are expanders and community members. And I've always been so lucky to have people around me who show me what is possible and remind me that I can do things. And so that's something I've never been lacking in. But it was me. I was in the lion's den with myself and my own expectations, and just having to reframe so much. And so much of my suffering was myself. I mean, a lot of it for me has been a disconnect between, and I feel like I've posted on the group about this so many times, like to an annoying degree, the disconnect between having a day job and having your identity be wrapped up in the day job versus running the marathon of your career, Totally. And I think everybody struggles with that. I don't care what career you're in. And I think we struggle with that just in society in general, no matter what it is, whether like it is having a family or being in love, finding love, or honestly just getting to know ourselves. It's really about the marathon, and boy, are we not messaged that in society whatsoever. So, well, let's get into your list process. We'll kind of, and then we'll go through kind of the work. Are you a specific or a non-specific? Non-specific.
So tell us what yours looks like.
So much sense. So I don't even really make lists anymore.
Great.
I mean, I sort of do, but I really think about how I want things to make me feel.
Great.
And I think that doing up-level Rut and figuring out my authentic code, and I just finished up-level next level, and now I'm doing the roadmap, but figuring out my authentic code has been so helpful because I can kind of filter all of my manifestation lists and like bullet points through that.
And what is yours?
So vibrancy, colors, food, feeling like I'm vibrant and alive, surrounded by vibrant people. Aesthetics.
I've never heard of vibrancy. That is the coolest one I've ever, amazing. That's so cool.
I have to tell you, after I figured it out, I'm not joking. 3 people who I met would be like, you're so vibrant. And I was like, what the hell?
All I'm seeing is your house in Oaxaca with textiles and food and love. Oh my God. I've never heard that. That's so cool.
And I think after living in New York, which, if you're not vibing there, it starts to feel like a gray box. I was like, I just need vibrancy. And then aesthetics. So it's kind of similar to your luxury where Taurus moon, I want lovely things. I want to feel lovely. I like design. I like all kinds of design, and that's so important to me. And then empowered imagination, which is the acting, the storytelling, being paid and praised for using my imagination.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Pinpoint. It's just so pinpointed so well. Oh my God. This is expansive hearing this.
Oh, thank you. I mean, your work channeled this for me, so it's everything. And then eclectic community and supportive family.
I love it. So very much about, it's interesting because all of the things that it sounds like you've been desiring for a while, or like you wanted to hit at 30, you're just getting a lot more clear on what that truly means to your core essence, which I don't think you're far away from any of those things. I think you're already in motion to all of them, but it sounds like you needed to get clear versus what society is messaging it needs to be.
I really did. And I think growing up with magazines and with all these things, I think I was like a sheep in a way.
Yeah.
And it's been really helpful to get clarity on all of this stuff.
Okay, so with this authentic code and being able to filter sort of your wants and needs, since you're not really doing lists, let's talk about like specifically leaving New York and manifesting California, as well as now the projects your dry spell is over and acting. Yeah. Tell us what that looked like, the call-in process.
Yeah, so I just I really knew that I needed a change, and I was making very specific lists, and then I started to realize that they were like very ego shell lists for work that I wanted to do. I was like, I just want to be on a show that the industry is watching. And it's like, yeah, but why?
Yeah,
like,
totally. Exactly. Like, where does it light you up? Like anything.
Exactly.
Where's the vibrancy? Yeah.
Right.
So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode.
It was all like stuff that was like sort of oddly calculated. And so now, I mean, what I'm trying to call in right now is, it's funny because I want to articulate this in a way that's helpful. I've really had to disentangle myself from day job stuff. And I've only been able to manifest stuff in my dream career by ditching the low self-worth day job stuff. So, you know, I nannied for years in New York, and then I was like, fuck this, I'm not working, and I did postpartum doula training, which was amazing, and then decided like that wasn't for me at the moment because I was like, God, I just don't want to get another business off the ground. Like I'm really trying to do one now, although those skills are totally invaluable, and I might go back to it, who knows. Right. But yeah, so kind of just needed to disentangle myself from New York. When we moved out here, I was like, oh, I'm not going to nanny anymore, and then got 2 like amazing nanny jobs, fell right into my lap.
Yep.
And of course I was doing them. And then by spring I was just like, I'm so burnt out. And I wasn't auditioning. You know, LA's hard. I will say, like, for any actors out there listening, like LA versus New York, I think if you're educated out there in New York, you can kind of get integrated into the industry pretty well, you know, and out here it's a lot bigger. It's a lot more spread out.
Yeah.
I think this is a sweeping generalization, but casting directors in New York and people in New York see acting as a craft and as a skill that you do outside of yourself. A lot of offices in LA, you know, they just don't have time, and you better walk in as the damn thing. Like if I get called in for something in LA, like I'm right for it. Like let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had carried a manager along with me from New York who just hadn't felt like an embodied yes for, if I'm being honest, like 4 years.
Wow.
I just wasn't paying attention to that. Like my phone would ring and like I would just clench a little bit and the conversation felt forced. And I just was like, well, I'm just so lucky to have a team. Like I don't need to fire anyone. And so it kind of all came to a head at the same point. We had been out here. This was like this May. I was babysitting, nannying, and I was just like, I feel so tired. I feel dull. I'm not getting enough auditions. I need to just make some changes. I need to leave nannying and figure out something else out. And that's when Doan came in, which I've since left. But again, a big lesson for me this year is like, Paige, if it feels heavy, drop it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Drop
and
it.
Sometimes we have to experience that many times before we can actually truly have a strong enough trust muscle to be like, no, it's something, it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Exactly. In the shadow of being a quitter or being lazy or being whatever. And I'm realizing that I wasn't giving any energy to my art, to myself, to heal, to take time. Like I was just on a hamster wheel, filling up my time with these like jobs where I was underemployed. I mean, yeah, I have a master's degree in acting, but it's a master's degree. I shouldn't be making less than a certain amount per hour. Like, so I was like, okay. So Doan kind of came along and I was like, wow, this hits everything kind of in my authentic code. It's like aesthetics, it's vibrancy. I get to go into this shop and like wear pretty clothes and talk to beautiful women who love these clothes. And it was so fun and I loved it. Left nannying and then fired my manager, which went so well.
Really?
She was like, yeah, it was great. I was just like, look, it's no bad blood, but I really need someone on the ground working for me out here. LA's a way different ballgame than I thought. And yeah. And she was like, totally agree. I believe in you. You're amazing, but I don't have the bandwidth. Like, best of luck. And then my agents, who I've been with since getting out of school, they set me up with this new guy and they were like, look, we'll get you as many meetings as you want, but if we were betting people, like, this is your guy. And this guy, Mr. Johnny Webster, has really turned everything around for me.
Wow.
My auditions have tripled. I feel seen. It's so special, but it really did turn everything around. And that's 2 weeks after signing with him. I think it was right when I saw you, I booked like a major studio movie. It was just a small role, but it was like, gosh, I had been on
you had been dry
such
for
a
how
dry
long?
spell.
Yeah, how long had it been by that point?
Nearly 3 years.
Look at you, jumped off so many cliffs.
All
and
at once.
All the sun blocking, all at once. Oh, so exciting.
It was like, and I just felt light. And so that's something that I'm really trying to embody all the time now is like, okay, if it's heavy, like just ditch it. Trust.
Amazing.
It always works out better than I think it's going to. So why am I white knuckling it? Like, let go.
And that's so hard. I'm even going through that right now, like in just like getting into my feminine, where it's like you can sit in siren, you don't need to go and achieve anymore, period.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
so hard.
Absolutely. But yeah, so then I booked that little gig and then had like a crazy portal day where I like walked into my agency and saw like some directors who I'd worked with and all this stuff. And then I walked out of the agency and an executive producer who I'd worked with called and was like, I need a favor. Are you in town? And so I ended up doing a little role on this new Netflix show called Soundtrack. That was super fun. And I basically got to like play all of the woo-woo LA witchy stereotypes, which was very fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then this past week I had gone in on September 6th, I think I went in for a role on this new like period piece miniseries, didn't get it. And then they called me with a straight offer for a different role. So that was super exciting and just went and did that in Florida.
Wow.
And that kind of burned down my current day job. And then I just went to New York because I had a friend's baby shower and I'm just coming back from 2 weeks in New York, like with no day job, coming off of work. And I'm just like, this is a new portal. Like, let's just see what happens.
Oh,
you know?
I'm so excited. And have you felt in the past, because I mean, you've made money. So have you felt in the past, like you also with money live in a little bit of lack where you're like, I still have to be stable. I have to have stable things. So it's like you keep closing off the portal to acting in order to have the portal to stability. Have you ever been in the place where you just trust the acting will come through?
That's right now. That's what I'm doing right now. And I feel, Lacy, I feel so different. I'm not scared. I'm just like, yeah, of course it's going to work out. Like,
wow.
I'm very good at this. And like, it's all going to be just fine. And you know what? If I need to supplement something, then I supplement and I pick it up. Like even today, I'm going to like help out one of the families that I babysat for. But now I'm coming to it with this empowered energy that's like, let me come in and be fun for a couple hours. And then I go home and it's all good. But I think I just felt I was just drowning earlier in the year. And now I'm like, no, I'm an actress who just like maybe does this sometimes, but it's not going to be that much longer that I'm going to need to. Because currently what I'm manifesting and taking, everything I'm taking through is I just want to be making, I want this to be my sole source of money.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Let's talk about this energetic, because it's a confusing one for people and it takes time. And we're talking about things like dropping our day jobs and all of that. And I want to hear your process, because it takes like jumping off of a cliff, having expanders, to get your trust muscle strong enough to feel in the place that you feel right now, where you're like, it's all good, something's going to come. That takes conditioning to get through like life experience. What would you say have been in the last year the most pivotal things to get you to this big of a trust muscle?
Yeah, I think that it is releasing expectations, or I think because I was the oldest child and always very driven, always very bright, always praised for being just on top of things. I think that a pattern that I've had to undo over the past 3 years, and I think this whole rock bottom has been a big thing for me, is undoing this feeling that I owe people something. Or that I need to be at people's beck and call. Like, it's rude if you don't show up when someone needs your help. And I think, doing a lot of actor day jobs are like that. Someone needs you to cover a shift, or you're nannying. As a nanny, you're like, or a babysitter, you're a Band-Aid for a family.
Totally.
And if you're not in your energetic worth, like, you're going to get run ragged. And so for me, it's been like, not being afraid of ending things, and then noting how light I feel afterward, and how people tend to receive my ending things very well.
And tell us about your process, because a lot of people can struggle with that, with codependency and just communicating. How do you exit a situation gracefully?
I think it's really about being in your worth and being clear about the bigger picture of your life. Because it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, but these people have been so good to me or whatever. And it's like, yes, but did you move to New York to be a nanny? Did you move to LA to be, you want to be an actress, right? So, and my friend Neil and I, who he does the work also, we always ask each other, if we call and we're in a rut, we say, what would your most magnetic self do in this situation?
Oh my God, that is the best advice ever.
It's amazing. And so that's what I would say to anyone who's trying to get out of something. Like, what would your most magnetic self say? Because usually, like, I don't know about your guys's, but like mine is glowing. She holds herself tall. She's so kind and warm. And so she could deliver any bad news or anything, and people are going to receive it well because she's coming from her truth. And there's no arguing with that, So that's the advice that I would give.
What does self-worth mean to you now? Or what does it feel like or look like?
It feels, I keep saying this word, but it feels light. It feels unencumbered. And it feels very calm. It feels very assured that I don't have to prove anything to anyone because I just am it. Like, I'm light, so I can come into any room or any situation and add something to it. And I don't need to dog paddle or freak out. Like, I can attract anything I want, really. It might not be on the timeline that I want, but I'm good, It's
so interesting because at the San Francisco speaking show, we always call someone on stage and we do a mini process at the end of it. And she was so dynamic and fantastic. And I asked her that question. It was like, what does self-worth mean to you? And she said, peace. And everybody in the room started clapping. And it's essentially what you're saying as well, right? It's no dog paddling. There's a lightness. There's no forcing thing, And it's so interesting because our old perception of manifestation and the new age world is positivity, love, the vibration of love and positivity. But I would argue that it's peace. You're just in full knowing that you can have, or it's yours. And it's not something you can fake. Like, you've had to go through a journey to arrive at. Like, you've had
100%.
You've had to unlearn things and heal things and earn this in a way.
Totally. And I think it's funny, right before I found your work, and I have to credit my friend Gia, she's the one who turned me on to you. I think maybe she heard you on the Lively show or something, but I was fully doing the new age shit and being
Me too.
Oh, create the void. Like I would literally like put in my calendar, like create the void so I get an audition that day.
What?
You know, just like little dumb
like
shit.
The space, right?
Yes,
like I've been doing that for 4 years for a baby. I'm like, not coming through.
I know.
So I love that. Yeah, create the void.
And I was just like, and then I was getting disappointed, and she was like, Paige, I think this is it. And it really has changed everything for me, because peace only comes when you deal with your darkness. Peace only really comes when you are at peace with the whole of yourself. You can't just skim the surface and be like, I'm good. It's all love. It's all happening. You're like, yeah, but why is it not?
Yeah. But where is it?
But what's going on?
With, career and money, we're often faced with tests or challenges or growth within love. Have you guys experienced that as a couple going through this whole process?
Yeah. And it's funny. I've been thinking about this a lot because he's an actor also. And when I first did Opulence, I realized how much I had watched all of the women in my family not be in charge of finances. And it was like, oh, well, we just bought these clothes, so go model the dresses for grandpa. Or, it was always like men were in charge of the money. Go ask your dad, go ask this. And I was like, oh, wow, this is already kind of happening in my marriage. And now I'm realizing that it's this different energetic exchange. And it's so cute because my husband doesn't actually do the work, but he fully uses the vocabulary.
He's probably innately already with it.
He totally is. I'll be like, babe, that's a test. She's like, you're right. Or I'll be like, he'll go and hang out with some new friends. And he's like, I just have to tell you, those guys are not expanders. And I'm like...
I love that. That's amazing.
So cute.
What's his sign? His sun sign?
He is a Scorpio, which how did a Scorpio and a Gemini end up together? But we balance each other out, right? Because he's got this depth and I have this levity that we kind of balance each other out. But so the thing that I've realized, in terms of day job, he does bring in the bulk of the money, but he always says to me, and it's so beautiful, I'm so grateful to not be with a jealous partner. He'll be like, you're the front runner right now with the industry. Oh, wow. And let's push you forward because I know that mine will come and you'll get me there too. And look, he's working today. He's doing something today, but he's always been for the beginnings of our career, I've had the better reps and I've been going in for series regulars since day one. So he's like, you go. So energetically, I'm not seeing it as he's supporting me financially. I'm like, no, it's going to get to a place where I'll get a show, start paying off our loans, and then so it's just this push-pull and allowing us both to be in our masculine and feminine is really helpful. And, my ego can get in the way. I can be like, no, you're just, why are you giving me money for that or whatever? But it's so good. And my money comes in when I lean into him a little bit.
Wow.
And trust the push-pull.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. What would you call yourself in right now? Where in the process, in the how to manifest formula, where do you stand at this moment?
In terms of the formula and magnetism?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere between tests and magic dark.
And what's going on? What's coming up for you at this time? We know what you're calling in, right? It's the big thing and living off this. So tell us.
Or just even I'm open to do swinging from job to job and just having flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think right now because like I said, I'm a day jobless wonder right now, except, listen to me, I'm going to nanny later, but I'm really trying to just call in freedom and flexibility in that realm. And what I'm, kind of shedding in terms of shadow is either laziness or being a bon vivant or feeling like I'm not working hard enough. But I'm like, no, your work sometimes is cleaning the house and reading a book and staying open to your creativity. And so I do think I'm in my magic dark just because I feel so peaceful.
Great.
And I think it's funny because I've heard you say this, but I think I thought I was in a magic dark for 3 years, and that was a goddamn rut. Like, that was not.
Oh, no, but everyone's
it's like, no, girl.
I know.
No, that's not a magic dark. In a magic dark, you feel peace.
You feel peace. And in a rut, you feel like shit.
You feel like you're freaking out.
Yeah.
Exactly. And crying. And I mean, crying is good at any time.
I mean, magic darky, you get to a place of like trust muscle where it becomes peace. Like whenever I go through a magic dark, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see what's coming.
Yeah.
It's like now more
exactly.
excitement. But
exactly.
The rut, you're just facing like a lot of tests and stuff shitty. Yeah. Total
and
difference.
I think what I didn't always realize is that like what I'm calling in is so giant. Like asking to be a lead on a TV show, like you're going to have to undo a lot of shit before you're energetically ready to be in that wavelength without spiraling or ruining your chances or whatever. You know, I know that I want to be in a place of peace when I get that big thing, you know? So yeah.
It's so funny. I remember, I dated this guy who had never acted before. We were in a play together, like no representation, nothing. He ended up, after the play wrapped was summer, he, like a friend of the family decided she wanted to rep him that was a manager come, I think, November. And I remember him waking up, and this is somebody who grew up like so expanded, so in his worth, for sure as a manifester, and human design has to be. And that January, I'll never forget. I mean, he has no acting experience. We're driving, and he was like, something really big's about to come in. I know it is. And that's when I was still in the like think positive model. And I remember thinking to myself, which is so fucked up, I'm like, oh my God, he is smoking crack. Like what? And literally 2 weeks later, he was auditioning for the lead of a new, like at the time, ABC family show, and went through a series. And that was his first acting job ever. He became a lead for, I think it was like many years of this lead on this show. Obviously it wasn't a great show or any of that kind of stuff, but I was like, that was one of the pivotal turning points for me in manifestation, where I was like, this has very little to do with positivity.
Literally very little to do.
Yeah, so it is. I love that you're saying everything that you're saying, and having a gauge on the work that needs to be done, and I think that's amazing. Right now, in this sort of magic dark between tests, what tests are coming up for you? Are you still getting job offers and nanny gigs and stuff like that aside from
course.
today? Yeah,
of course. Like people are reaching out to me on like, I was on some of those apps like care.com and stuff, or just little stuff like that. Also just like weird uses of my time. I think because I'm trying to cleanse how I use my time. It'll be like, oh, like come do this one little thing. And I'm like, no, Totally. So stuff like that. And
so like you're setting a boundary, and your boundaries, like you're getting asked, are you sure? Are you sure? In different capacities of your life.
Yes, okay. Exactly. And even, I mean, going and spending the 2 weeks in New York, that was huge and expansive for me. And I like didn't want to go. I was like, no, I don't have a job. And I like missed my husband's birthday, and he was like, you need to go. Like, you have to go. It's going to be so amazing. Go enjoy New York. Go enjoy our friends out there. Like, you just booked a job. And you know what's funny? So I want to talk a little bit about this too. The job that I just booked, that was the straight offer. It was a smaller role than what I had gone in for, and it was implied nudity. And I've done it plenty of times, and I'm actually really in my worth about that stuff, because I think because in my real life I was always like very in my worth about sex. I think it just doesn't bother me, but I felt the energetics so differently this time, because this was a role that's, maybe a little bit smaller than things I've done in the past. And it was just the one scene, and it was nudity. But I remember I was on that set, and like not everything was super copacetic. It was a rewrite and all this stuff. But I was just sitting there being like, wow, they got a damn good actress to do this.
Wow.
And I'm in my worth. If I want to keep doing stuff like this for the money, they're paying me well. That's great. But like, I don't have to do this. I'm so glad I chose to do this. But like, they got a damn good actress to do this little naked role. Yeah. Like I was just like,
that's
not
awesome.
In a shitty, conceited way, but I was just like, wow, it's cool to look at something and be like, I chose to do it, but I didn't have to. I think in the past I would have been like, I'm just so grateful, and it's like, no, I'm grateful to do it, but also like, yeah, I'm the shit. So
I love that. I love it. Oh my God. That's such, you're hitting such a vibration, for lack of a better word. That's so good. That's going to, it's just going to serve you so much come 2020. I'm just really excited for where you're headed.
And I feel like, isn't like Uranus and Taurus now? I feel like that was gonna. I got my chart read once, and she was
till like
okay.
2025, I think.
Yeah, she was like, once that happens for you, like you're gonna be okay. And I feel that.
Wow. Yeah, man. Were you talking to Danny?
No, I wish. I'm dying to talk to Danny.
Okay, somebody else. She's been chatting about that lately, so I didn't know if that was.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yes,
huge.
Awesome. Okay, so word to any artist out there, because energetics around being an artist are honestly applicable to most. It's also applicable to entrepreneurs. Very, very same energetics when it comes to money.
True.
And
that's what my podcast is about.
Is it? Well, tell us about your podcast. I was going to shout that out at the end, but for anybody who wants to tune in, tell us about it.
So it's called The Blank Page, like my name. And I was just, because I was in that rock bottom, I was like, God, how do we just recreate ourselves again and again? And I wanted to talk to creatives, entrepreneurs, and storytellers about how they return to that proverbial blank page, how they stay well on their path, what they consume to, like, you know, in terms of food, exercise, culture, just how people keep going, how they make this sustainable for themselves, because it is a long game. But yeah, that's what it's about. And so I get to listen to friends and colleagues basically give me advice on that all the time, and it's super expansive.
I want to check it out.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh,
sounds great.
Yes, you would love it.
With that, you know, like in mind, right before you booked this role that took you out of your dry spell, like if you were to sit there and reflect back today, the moment you heard, you know, you got that call, you're like, you got it. What would you say were the biggest things in a nutshell, now that you know this process, that, you know, even if it's like naming an expander, the workshop that did this, the realization that happened there, this test, like give us in a nutshell for every entrepreneur and expander out there, artist out there listening, in a nutshell, got that call, what were the things that contributed to make that specific job come through?
Not being afraid to shed the things that feel heavy to make room for that thing. Don't be afraid of being your fullest self. A shadow thing that I'm constantly getting over is that I'm like too extra or too big or too social or talk too much.
Which every woman, I think, arguably has to work through that at some point.
God, I mean, in that room, I literally, the audition for that job, I was like, oh my God, you're an idiot. Why did you talk so much? That was a small role. And they were like, no, they were obsessed with you. So I was like, cool, just come in and be Sparkles McGee whenever you want. So figure out what you do naturally and then deconstruct any shame around that and lean into it without fear.
So I'm going to highlight this as you're going. So number one, you talked about basically essentially being able to say no to anything that's not a hell yes. So for any
detox.
That's and no, unblocked no is a perfect workshop for that.
Right.
Secondly, having to do shadow to get rid of I'm too big, right? That was a shadow that was blocking you. And then thirdly, now it sounds like, go ahead and lay it out a little bit more, and I'll say that one.
Yeah, I think also getting clear on, I mean, I've said it with the authentic code, but getting clear on, your core essence. And then anything that isn't that, it has to go. And it's fine because you will always be carried. Something better is always there for you. You just have to be willing to ditch the thing that isn't right to allow that to come through.
And that's, you can do up level any of the three of whatever you identify with to find out that authentic code, you know, namely, if you're in a good flow, you would do, which you are right now and you just completed, you'd be doing next level.
Yeah. I loved it.
Doesn't it feel good? You're like, fuck, things are coming.
Lacy, the deservingness, it's do everything. It every other day. That's love my that one. Favorite.
New recordings coming soon.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. I actually, you know, the journaling is good for me. I do morning pages every morning anyway because I've done the artist way like 3 times in conjunction with your work. But I get so much out of the DREs. Like it's everything for me. It's so important.
I'm so happy. Continue. Sorry.
But I guess just don't deny the fact that you are the creator of your life, that you have more control than you think you do. Things are not happening to you. Obviously I'm so lucky. I have a beautiful partner and a great community. So I'm very supported in making these decisions, but make decisions, make changes, and get clear on what you want your life to look like, and then get to work, but then also have patience, because I think we can take 2 steps back in manifestation by having expectations about a timeline. Figure out what you want things to look like, and then lean into your faith and find available joy every single day.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. My big last question. I think it's a last, maybe not.
That's fine.
Do you, now that you've gotten to experience some manifestations working out and coming through, we all tend to have a pattern right before one comes through where we go, oh my God, one's close. You can feel, everybody has extra sensory around it. Sydney talked about, that time stands still. I can smell things and feel them down my spine. Have you figured out what your pattern looks like when something's right about to come through?
Yeah, I feel like I just get really present. I feel very unencumbered, and I don't know, I feel kind of sexy. I just feel, it's when I start to feel pretty at peace with everything that's going on that things start to come through. But I have to kind of go through hell first. I kind of have to deal with all these no's. And, the no's are getting less and less painful, but once I have to shed a lot, and then I kind of just sit and float for a second, and then things usually come through.
Perfect. That's how mine look very similar to that as well.
Yeah.
Especially when it's about to be a whole new cycle, of a whole new up leveling. I have all the things you just named off happen. What are you doing to prepare for the new year? I like to do all the manifestation preparation starting November. So it's I hit the year running. What's your preparation go? Because things die down in the industry until pilot season picks up. What do you do at this time?
What's funny? I think this is the first year that I am really leaning into holiday relaxation with family. I think I've spent, since I guess I've been at this professionally for over 7 years now, and I stress the fuck out during holidays, being it's not happening, but when are the auditions going to pick up again and whatever. And now I'm just this is my life, and I really just want to spend some really yummy time with friends and family. And I think that I did not know how to relax at all, how to rest, or how integral that is to growth. And so right now I'm in a period of kind of rest and trust, and get everything looking, in terms of the vibrancy, get everything looking the way I want it to. Do I want to color my hair again? I don't know. How do I want my wardrobe to look? For pilot season, you're going in for lawyer. There's all this basic stuff, but what does Paige's lawyer look like? Maybe she's not wearing that typical thing. Just finding all the things that light me up. My new mantra is for any audition, anything, I'm let's have some fun. Let's go have some fun. So just calling in fun, and, prepping my actor toolbox and reading what I want to read. And the podcast has been so helpful because it's given me just another outlet to be creative, and to, it's something that I complete. I'm not, kind of sounds like shit on some of them because I'm doing everything myself. And it's so empowering. So just leaning into the presence of my life and really focusing on deservingness, regardless of what's happening on the outside.
You talked about how expanders have always come pretty easily to you.
Yeah.
How do you call yours in, and how do they show up in different facets?
Yeah, I feel like I'm such a Gemini in that I actually love social media. That
was going to be one of my questions, is how do you utilize, how do you curate and utilize your social media?
It's so funny. So I'm doing the holiday prescription one right now, and I'm oh my God, that was so hard for me to ditch some social media. And then I had to do some podcast stuff, but really it is I use it as a way to stay inspired. And I mean, I feel pretty lucky. I don't experience jealousy that much.
Great.
But I'm like, if I see something in someone that like makes me feel some type of way, I'm like, oh, I want a piece of it. So I want to be around this person. I just DM people. Like, I'm crazy. Or even in...
You're just a manifester.
Yeah. And in waiting rooms, I mean, obviously I'm very respectful of people's energy and stuff, but some of my best friends I've made in waiting rooms.
I used to have that happen.
Yeah. It's like, if you like someone's boots, like, let them know. If you have seen them on a show, we're all terrified. You know what I mean? If I've been like, oh my God, your 3-episode arc was so good on that show. You were amazing. She's going to go have a great audition and I feel empowered, you know? So, yeah, social media, I love it. And I've met a lot of expanders through social media. But also I deconstruct a lot of shame around, like I said, like you came into the store, you know, people come in and I'm not afraid to say hi or to let them know, you know, what they've done means to me or just how much I respect them. And because that's what I would want. So yeah, I think just being in my worth enough to communicate with people.
And you
really
seem
helpful.
like you're fully expanded on this next chapter. Like you got
I
that
think
going.
so. And the crazy thing is, like, doing this podcast, I'm like, holy shit. Like, there's so much out there. And I'm seeing to believe. Yeah, people are booking. Like, people are booking. And there are plenty of people, they don't have to be famous, who don't have day jobs and they're booking.
When you look at even the direct people you know in the industry and you kind of like sit them around in a circle who work all the time and never have to worry about work and money and booking, what do they all share in common?
I think it's trust. I think that they just don't freak out. They're not in scarcity and they just love it in a no nonsense, no ego kind of way.
Amazing.
They love the work. And you know, connection is everything. And the best way to make organic connections within the industry is to just be grounded and secure in your work. People who are in it for the right reasons, I think, really prosper.
And what would be your piece of advice to somebody who's in one of their deepest ruts right now?
You're going to get out of it. Nothing is forever. You know, it's all cyclical. So many of my friends are pregnant and giving birth, and it's such an embodied reminder that nothing is forever. You know, you're gonna get out of that. There's gonna be a rainbow at the end of it. Don't be afraid of your darkness. Really look at it. Get the help you need and know that you deserve what you want. You really, really do. If the things that you want are there because God wants you to have them, you know, the universe wants you to have them. So deconstruct the shame and know that a season's just a season, you know, that's what it is. It's a season. So if it's your winter, it's okay. Your spring's on the other side. Just don't be afraid to do the work.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Paige. You are the perfect process expander. I hope everybody listening to this, your manifestation is energetic. So even if you don't identify as an artist or an actor, this is applicable. Everything said on this today to any industry you might be in. So this was so expansive and helpful. And thank you. Yeah. And so you can find your podcast at The Blank Page. And anybody listening, that's Paige. Where do we find you on Instagram?
My handle is Paige is a Peach.
I love all of this. You're so good at branding. This is great. Awesome. I can't wait to see what comes out of this pilot season and this next year.
Thank you, Lacy.
Very good.
You have changed my life. I'm so grateful for everything that you've channeled, and I'm just a huge fan. I'm always so excited to see what you do next.
Thank you. And you're really doing the work. I'm so proud of you. Like you're even doing the DRE holiday challenge right now.
I'm
like
obsessed. People jump on board. Like even if you're late, get into it. It's so good.
I'm doing it. I'm like crying every day doing it.
Exactly.
We'll have the most beautiful day today, Paige. We are so grateful. Please keep us posted on anything that comes, the next thing that comes.
Will do.
And have a beautiful holiday season.
Thank you. You too, Lacy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ plus community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.